welcome to The Yard, where faith and sports collide. I'm Marcus Pasqual, host of The Yard, and I want to welcome today's guest, local high school football coach, wide receivers coach, local youth pastor, Scotty Cowan. How you doing, Scotty?
Doing fantastic, man. I'm really excited to be here today.
Hey, man, we love having you with the local flavor. I'm excited to have you. And you guys, as you're watching, don't forget to check us out on our YouTube channel. We've got great content there. We've got all the shows, some behind the scenes, some fun stuff. So check out our YouTube channel as well. I want to say a huge thank you to our partner, Christian Podcast Central, that helps make sure this thing happens. So thank you so much. So check out, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out Christian Podcast Central for great content. But back to you, Scotty. How you doing, man?
Doing good. A little rainy out today, but feeling good.
Yeah, Southern California rain.
Yeah.
You know, the crazy thing about living in Southern California, I was born in Panama, okay, which has rainy season. Like, it doesn't have like, it rains, there's like a whole like season of rain, right? Because it's the jungle. Then moved to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where it rains like crazy. And when I moved to San Diego, I realized something about San Diego. When it rains, it's like the top news item for a week.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I've always said, like, oh, here's one of those days of the year where water falls from the sky and everyone freaks out. Everyone doesn't know what to do with it because it doesn't happen.
And if there's something the news doesn't need a report on, it's the rain, because I can figure that out myself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going on in Washington or stocks or other. Please tell me about that. You don't need to tell me it's raining. You know why I know? Because it's wet outside.
Yeah, well, I mean, here in San Diego, it's talked about. Something's changed, something's different, and it's not like we have like a week or a month of rain. It's like we get a couple days out of the year where it's like, wow, what is this?
Yeah,
This is cool.
they act as if we've never seen it before. And then every news channel, every local news channel, you flip it, and the top story is that it's raining.
It's raining today.
Well, great. I'm glad that you were brave enough to get in your car, leave your house in Southern California.
It takes a lot of courage
and join us in the studio. Well, this is The Yard, where faith and sports collide, and you're a perfect guest for this, Scotty, because your world pretty much is about faith and sports colliding. Right now, having two jobs, a high school football coach, wide receiver specifically, and a youth pastor. That's just like faith and sports right there. So I want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so it actually started my sophomore year of high school. Our quarterback at the time for our varsity team and the guy that was starting at safety for us and myself kind of met up, and we were like, we wanted to start something up. We were all, really involved in our youth ministries and kind of chasing after Jesus in our own rights. And we had this discussion about what can we do? And we started up a Friday morning, we called it a prayer breakfast, where a bunch of the football parents supported this. They came together, and the moms made amazing breakfast on Friday mornings before games, and the team would show up and we would all eat together, breakfast burritos, omelets, different things like that, and then we would bring in a local youth pastor or a local sports guy, kind of like you guys do here, just not necessarily at that level, and then they would speak a little bit, and then we just spend some time in prayer. And then the house that we did it at was right across the street from school, so it would end and we just walk across the street, have the day, and then play the games on Friday nights. And so it started my sophomore year, and that's actually still happening today. Those breakfasts still happen.
So that was kind of the beginning of your life of sports and faith, not being two separate compartments, but kind of woven together. I just want to give a couple shout outs right now.
For sure.
Why don't we give a shout out to look at that camera, give a shout out to your high school, and give a shout out to your church, brother.
Hey, San Pasqual High School, I see you guys, bleed blue and gold all day. Still one of the best football programs around, I believe. And then of course, New Vintage Church. What's up, y'all? I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. New Vintage Youth, I love you guys. It's a little shout out to you. So.
Extra shout out to New Vintage Church. We love you. We both have the pleasure of being pastors on staff there, and get to do ministry and life together.
Yep.
And so then you're a young man in high school, and kind of pick it up from there. Where did it turn to be just only eating burritos and praying for your bacon to really like faith really being integral in your life?
For sure. So a great story about this is San Pasqual had gone on like a 22 game loss streak over 3 seasons.
Is that while you were playing, probably?
It was the year before I became it was all my fault. It was the year before I got there, and then my freshman year, and then it was starting to bleed over into my sophomore year. And the week after we started this, so our second ever prayer breakfast was the game that we broke it. We broke that 20. We beat San Marcos, and everyone was celebrating, and a story came out about it. And all of a sudden, there was. It wasn't like the big time networks, but we had people coming up to, like I said, the quarterback, myself, and just being like, "Tell us about this breakfast thing you got going on." And it started getting attention. And all of a sudden, this team started showing up, and so that kind of translated all the way through. We kind of also took over the FCA at our campus as well, me and those guys, and so it started to kind of change the culture. I'm a firm believer that really football can help set the culture for the entire year if you do it right, and you have like your leaders on the team being good examples on campus. You can get a little bit of a wave of momentum going throughout the entire school year. And it really did that into my junior year, to where the Christian club on campus blew up. And the team was doing our prayer breakfasts, and it was this really cool thing to watch on a public high school of just kind of Jesus moving throughout in all these different ways, and the stories that came out of those next 3 years, just of different things from the breakfasts. I can sit here for an hour and more telling you stories that happened at those breakfasts, and down to even just what happened at the Christian club and stories that happened there. And those next 3 years kind of being this wave of momentum that started with the start of those breakfasts was amazing. And then I graduate, and I thought my time there was done. I really did. And the guy that I have mad respect for, shout out Coach Corley, all of a sudden starts dating my mom after I graduated.
Did you throw a penalty?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a shock at first.
Yeah.
I remember the first time he showed up to the house to pick up my mom for a date, and I opened it, and I was like,
"You should throw some pass interference in there."
I was like, I opened the door, and I was like, "Hey there, Coach. How's it going?" And so it was this like weird, not weird, but it was weird.
Yeah.
But it wasn't weird between him and I. It was just like this weird, like, whoa, kind of like a shock kind of a thing. Well, due to that relationship, they needed help come springtime for spring football time. And I was like, yeah, I'll come out and help throw passes and set up cones and stuff like that. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the coaching aspect. Joined that next fall on the freshman level, and this is my 8th year. Yeah, my 8th year doing it.
So okay, there's a couple things I want to unpack there. So take us back to Coach dating your mom, and talk us through what eventually happened there.
So it was one of the funniest stories that I tell is for probably a good 6 months, I never called him anything. Like, I walked to you, what's up, Marcus?
Yes.
You know, hey, Joe, hey, you have names for people or nicknames for people. I didn't have, what am I gonna call him? Coach? Like, that didn't feel right. I wasn't gonna call him Tony.
Yeah.
And I sat there, if I wanted his attention, I would just say hey and hope he would be the one to turn.
Yeah.
And so it was this weird kind of like, I don't know what to do. The relationship was fine. It wasn't like there was any problems. But it was more of just like, I didn't really necessarily know what to do. And so they started dating, and it took off. He had 3 daughters, and so now I gained 3 stepsisters once they ended up getting married. And we all gelled like this. Like this, the first time we ever hung out, we decided, spur of the moment, let's go rock climbing, and had a great time.
Yeah.
And so the relationship there was great. And so over time, you know, we got together and hung out, and obviously they got married later. And there was a day that my now middle sister came home, and she was over at her friend's house, and they were joking about names that they call grandparents, or like nicknames for their parents, and she came home jokingly calling him D-Daw. And that saved my life because it caught on, and that became
Now you
the
had
name.
something to call him.
It wasn't Tony, it wasn't Dad, it wasn't Coach, it was like something D-Daw.
And so Coach Tony is who I know and is a great coach and a great guy, and is a man's man, and loves him some football.
Oh yes, sir.
Right, and loves himself some football so much. What did the wedding look like?
They got married on the football field. So hit the party, like I was the only groomsman, and then my sisters were all the bridesmaids.
Yeah.
And him and I came out from behind the press box, down the stairs, like all the stuff onto the 50-yard line logo.
Awesome.
And then there were a ton of chairs set up on the field, and then the stands were just all filled. So yeah,
so
we got
cool.
they got married. We say we as a family, like we got married, and but they got married on the 50-yard line of the football field.
Man, that is super cool. So I want to bring the story up then to kind of where we are now, you are now as a youth pastor, and how do you as a high school football coach, because you're limited to what you can do spiritually, but yet there's this huge impact you're having that's being tethered to kids all around San Diego, and certainly with the football team who are deciding to, hey, I want to commit my life to Christ. And walk us through what that's looking like.
It has been an insane journey that I don't think I understood what it would be when I started. Because shout out to San Pasqual football, its focus has always been champions for life. So it's always been about building character, right? And so there has always been this angle of we're gonna care about the players as people first, right? So I was already having that mindset. And then when I got involved with New Vintage Church, all of a sudden it was a different mindset. Now I was bringing Christ into it more. I already had that in my life, but now I get to see some of these players throughout the week, and then on Sundays with church. And so now, what does this relationship look like? Why am I here? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Winning football games is a lot of fun. Having fun at practice is great. But what's keeping me going, and especially right now, right? Because you can have football practice, you can go out there and do footwork drills and stuff like that. But the reason I'm doing that even right now, and the reason I keep going back, and the reason I'm really in love with coaching football, is you get to kind of see the real side of what's going on in students' lives. So I can show up to church and on Sunday nights for youth group, and most of the time, kids are pretty honest, but maybe, you got some students that are gonna hold some stuff back because like I'm at church, maybe I'm not gonna talk about things or whatever, or maybe I don't get the real culture of what's going on in these students' real lives at school. But now I'm in a place where I'm stepping onto campus as a football coach and with the football team, where I can sit back and I can hear real life happening, whether it's issues or whatever jokes, trends, this, that, or the other thing that are going on. And I can take that to not only help me in the ministry world, where I know kind of what's actually going on, but it reverses that as well, where I can kind of be a positive influence in the midst of a world that can get extremely messy. I've said to people right now, it's probably harder to be a high schooler right now than ever before. With everything that they're dealing with. And so my main focus when I step on to that field and when I step onto that campus is just be a positive influence for them and someone that they can also come to. Right? I can teach them how to run a slant for days, right? I can do that whether we're actually doing it in pads or I have to stand 6 feet apart, whatever. I can teach them how to run slants and deep fades and all this kind of stuff. but it's when I have this cool relationship where they feel like they can show up to practice, and if they're having a rough day, they can actually express that. And we can talk through it, and I can help them out through life. And I've had great relationships with some of these players that even now, even past graduation, they'll text me every now and then of just, either, hey, I'm going through something and maybe want some advice, or just want to talk and catch up on life. And that's what I really love, and that's why I keep going back.
You're in a unique spot, and I think you're doing it great, Scotty, where, like you said, you could have a really positive influence. And I know a lot of times as Christians or pastors specifically, we think, man, I need to use the right exact verse, or I need to make sure that I act spiritual, or all these things, as opposed to just being a light. Like, it's undeniable if you're in darkness, in the dark place, and you come in as a light. It doesn't need a specific verse. It doesn't need a specific biblical references, as much as those things are important in the foundation. But really, if you're just out there being a light, it's going to attract people to Jesus. And I love reading through the Gospels. Jesus, who, if anybody's going to be quoting God's word, he is the word, is Jesus. And certainly there were times that he did that, but so often, man, when he's out in the field, or he's out with fishermen, or he's out with owners of land, he's talking about, okay, vineyards, right? Because it's a language they can understand.
Yeah.
Or, hey, guys, get around here. Let me tell you the story of this farmer, right? And so he's not using even biblical references at that time that were established. He's just talking the more you can understand. And I think that that's something you're doing very well, where we should all be able to do in our workplace, right? In our friend group, wherever we are, that maybe it's a spot where it's not the right time to break out a specific verse, but always the right time to be a light for Christ. Have you seen that technique has worked for you?
Yeah. I was going through, as pretty much in the very early stages of me joining the Vintage Church. I was already coaching football. I was kind of struggling with, like, do I need to bring the right verses, the right things to the football field every time, and just be ready for anything, and always have the right thing to say. And I was sitting down with a mentor of mine. He's like, you grew up in a youth ministry? I was like, yeah. He's like, you had a youth pastor? I'm like, yeah, loved him. And he's like, can you name 5 of his messages? No, I can't. I mean, I can maybe tell you 1 or 2 that really stuck with me. He's like, but what do you remember most about being in that youth ministry? And I was like, it was how he made me feel, and how I was able to relate with him, and how he was just a light and influenced me. Yeah, he's one of the best speakers I know, and yeah, he had great messages, but I really do remember how I just felt when he was around, and how I felt loved and cared for. And it kind of changed my perspective of taking that into the football field. Is, again, I can tell you memories I've had with certain players of, like, when they made a great play, or this thing that happened in practice, but I hope that when they walk away, they can look back and they more remember how I was able to just kind of be someone that was there for them. And so that was a huge struggle of mine, of, like, how do I say the right things and coach the right way and bring in the right verses. And it was more of just be a light, look at how Jesus treated others, take that into what you do, and hopefully that makes the impact that you're looking to make.
Yeah, so. Man, I love that. And I know this story about Billy Graham, and a friend of mine shares it a lot, where this coach came to Billy Graham and he says, hey, coach, hey, Billy, I want to leave my career as a coach and become a pastor, a minister like you. And Billy Graham goes, why? He goes, well, I want to have this impact on people. And Billy Graham, I'm going to mess this up, but paraphrase, says, man, a coach will have more impact on people than most people would, like, in 100 lifetimes, right? And that's true, because grow up playing all these sports, I can't name you my teachers, because I was asleep in class, or not there, right? And but man, I can be here all day and tell you names, dates, stories of my coaches, and for you to be so gifted in leveraging your heart as a coach and just being a light will ultimately lets them find out what that light is in you. I just want to encourage you, and also those who are listening, with the coaches that are listening, to think that, well, maybe I want to be a pastor, or how do I minister more, you know, and not only the coaches, the business people, you know, that right there where you are, be a light.
And it's been really cool because as the youth ministry that I'm a part of has started to really take off in a way. One big part of that, for like essentially the start of the growth, was we had a lot of guys from San Pasqual football showing up, taking the lead, and inviting their friends. And it was this cool thing where I'd had a relationship that personally, like, I didn't know if it was sticking or not throughout these 3-4 years with some of these guys. And all of a sudden it's turned into this amazing relationship between us, and now we've put kind of God at the center of it, and they're taking that and running with it, and now it's incredible. And so to kind of see this aspect, kind of what you're talking about of making an impact, you don't know what you're gonna do and say and what's gonna like take hold and really light a fire. Like, you could just be that guy that was there for that player that one day that his life fell apart, or he had that minor inconvenience, or he had a girlfriend break up with him, or whatever, and you just happened to be there that day, and now you've made potentially an eternal impact, and maybe even at the least, maybe just for the rest of his life, or maybe for the rest of his high school experience. And so what I've started to see is, you know, not looking for, I'm gonna make biggest impact today on this kid's life. Like, I'm gonna go in with this plan, I'm gonna make sure that I make insane, I'm just gonna make little choices to hopefully just be there in little ways, in tiny ways. And even when I coach, I'm not gonna stand there and say, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did right. But I'm gonna look at every kid and be like, okay, get to know them, figure out how they're wired, how they work, so that I can coach them in a way where they now feel like there's a connection here, rather than just I'm drawing lines and making sure they take the right steps. Is I'm gonna do this in a way where we can actually talk where you understand it, because your personality gets this in a certain way, where that guy over there, I have to maybe coach in a little different way. And so just finding ways to make little impacts like that can build up into a giant wave where that kid can now be a fantastic leader in society on his campus, and just drawing out some of their talents and gifts that they have, that you can see, hopefully that you recognize in players as you're coaching them, not only their talents and gifts on the field, but just who they are as a person, and drawing some of those out and saying, like, you should take those and live life with those, because every single one of those guys and every player I've encountered has amazing talents and gifts that can severely impact the world in a great and positive way, whether they're a Christian or not. And so not only drawing those out, but then being that light for Jesus to maybe shine into their lives, and maybe that's the only experience that they're going to get with someone in terms of them representing Jesus. Like, players looking at me, I might be the only example they ever see of Jesus on their high school campus. And so just finding little ways to impact, be positive light, and represent Jesus.
Well, thanks, Scotty, for joining us today, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for your commitment to Christ, your commitment to the youth, and making a difference. And if you're watching and you're hearing this, and maybe you're a coach, and this touched your heart, just want to encourage you the impact that you can have on your student athletes, or the people that you're coaching, is unmeasurable. And maybe you're in a spot where you can't bring a Bible verse, or you can't really give a biblical reference, but you can be the light of Christ. Do that, and I think that'll help change your life, because they'll wonder what's going on in you. So don't forget that. And maybe you're listening and you're going, man, I want that light, I want that love, I want to be somebody that has that light. Just want to encourage you, take a chance to call out to God, find out who He is, invite Him in your life. It's great. He'll forgive you of your sins. He'll make you new. He'll make you His child, so just there in your heart, call out to God and find a great church, grow in your faith, get baptized, and give God a chance. I guarantee you won't regret it. Well, God bless you guys, and we hope to see you next time here at the Yard where faith and sports collide.